Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
Oh, wait, I did it wrong. I did it backwards.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Oh, John, what was that look?
That look was because you peaked. Like, you were clipping in the audio. Like, hey. Like, that was like Neutral Milk Hotel levels of distortion just from like clipping. I was like, whoa.
The only girl I've ever loved.
Hey, we make some crazy money.
So that's why I made that face, was because I just like had to look.
Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we've got the trio back together to talk about some video games. How you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Doing all right.
Nice. Yeah, we're all sipping on a few drinks here. I'm sipping on a little gin and coffee, which I don't know if it's... Well, I was going to say I don't know if it's the best combination, but I really like it. So
yeah.
I've been up since 5:30 in the morning. Yeah, I've been up since 5. The bitterness of the two flavors complement each other, in my opinion. It's just like the botanical and the bitterness.
The juniper, yeah.
Yep. I don't know. It works pretty well for me. But I guess since we're talking about having a few drinks or whatever, I might as well mention I guess we mentioned our buddy Mikee on the podcast pretty often.
I don't like that parallel you just drew.
Well, he came over and we had a few drinks. Is what I was gonna get at. Our buddy Mikee. Yeah, speaking of the biggest lush we know. But our buddy Mikee. It's been a long time, probably a really long time since, because like Mikee is in a band with John and I, and most of the time when we would hang out together, we're like all hanging out. So it'd been a long time since just Mikee and I had hung out. And I was hoping John could sync up with us, but he was only able to actually swing by during the day, which we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, Mikee swung by and we had a few drinks and later in the evening and after having some food, and we just played some video games and mostly just passed the controller around and on some single player stuff. And we played a little few hour DVD for a little while. I just wanted to show Mikee like, hey, check out this game that our buddies made. And then we played some Snakebird, which John, you and I talked about a while ago on the podcast. I don't think you had played any, but we had kind of just like gone over the mechanics. Are you familiar with the game at all, Randall?
Obviously, I didn't listen to that episode because apparently
nice. That's all good. It's all good. It's like a side-on like puzzle game, like grid-based, tile-based, where like you're moving like one space either up, down, left, or right at a time, and then like it's like the game Snake. Like every time you eat a piece of fruit, you extend by one grid space or whatever, and then as long as any piece of your Snakebird is touching any part of ground, like that will ground you, like gravity won't take effect until you're not touching any ground, and then you'll fall off the ledge or whatever. You're kind of on like little floating islands. But yeah, we played like the first like 5 or 6 levels. We actually played up to like the secret level that I got up to for like the video that I made on our YouTube channel for Snakebird. And it's like this challenge where there's 3 different Snakebirds and you're just like floating in the clouds, and there's this like giant like dumbbell that you have to like somehow figure out a way to like snake your, like literally snake it up there. You gotta like make staircases out of these snakes and like climb your way up, but like somehow figure out a way to like always be connected to solid ground, which is why you have to use this dumbbell thing to like hook it to something at the top and shimmy it along so that you can latch yourself onto that. Like we couldn't figure it out, but it was like one of those games where like Mikee was just staring at the screen going like, I fucking hate this game. And we both were like, this is so frustrating, but like you just get so determined to beat the level. Like even like, and again, like by the 5th or 6th level, it is like fucking impossible. Like to the point, we mentioned it on the other episode, Randall, but like they made a sequel to Snakebird, if you will, but it's called Snakebird Primer. And it's actually like an easier version of Snakebird. It's like, oh, here's like a tutorial. Like if Snakebird was too hard for you, which is really cool. Yeah. It's, and I have played that as well, and it's definitely, I think we even mentioned that on the podcast too, it's definitely like a nice, like at least the first, like I played about the first world of that and was like, okay, this is like easing me into things, and like, okay, this feels more like what I was expecting, because it's got this really bright, colorful, like cheerful presentation, but I love the facial expressions of the Snakebirds. Yeah, pretty much. And then I did want to mention too, because we've mentioned it a few times now on the podcast, quite a few times, Samurai Gunn 2. And this game is still in early access, but it's coming to Switch eventually, and it's coming to all sorts of platforms, I think. But right now it's just on Steam in early access, and they just added another new like character from outside of the game relatively recently. They added like the Among Us crewmate. They also have Minute and from Minute, and they have Anna from Spelunky. Or Spelunky 2 for that matter.
Wow.
But yeah, they have two other characters that they're kind of like swapping between. But like Mikey and I were, we recently had a session over at Mikey's, like when our buddy Glenn was in town. I guess recently, it was over the holidays. But we played some TowerFall, and it's kind of like a similar game to that. Like it's up to 4 players. There is like I guess it kind of, totally similar. Like there's a versus mode, which is kind of like the core mode of the game, if you will. But then there's like especially with TowerFall, they added like that DLC, like Dark World Ascension or whatever it's called, where it's like kind of that cooperative campaign. So it's kind of super similar in that regard. So I was just like, hey, Mikey loves TowerFall. Like he's always the one like really pushing us to play that, which I had a blast playing that over at Mikey's. I really have never played TowerFall much competitively. Like every time I've ever played at Mikey's, he's always like, let's play the co-op campaign. And I've never really played much competitively, and I really would like to. And I really would like to play Samurai Gunn with more than 2 people. I've only ever played me versus DJ or me versus Mikey, and I played with his once, the guy who did the pixel art for our Pelican and Frog. But I've never. Oh, and I played with Vacant Code as well, who just joined our Discord recently. But I've never like played more than just one-on-one like showdowns, and I feel like it could get so crazy. I love those single screen, arcade duel. You know, I feel like for a little while there was like a big boom of those coming out,
and like all those type of ones.
Exactly. Yeah, like just that like straight, like kind of simple, really focused, almost like game jam style. Like here's like a mechanic, and this is how it works, and square off. But
nothing else, no fat.
Yeah. But Samurai Gunn 2 is so cool because like every character has like just the subtlest. They're actually pretty distinct, but like on the surface they seem like they all kind of feel the same, except there's like a couple that are like very significantly slower or faster for that matter. But like, I don't know. I just am blown away by that game. And Mikey, him and I rarely agree on games, maybe even less than John and I. So this was like a situation where I was like, man, if Mikey's into this, like we kept kind of doing the same thing of like, one more. Let's play another.
Nice.
Let's play another. We just kind of kept playing. It's really fun. And it's
always a good sign.
Yeah, and it just leads to those moments of like, oh shit, like you get that last second kill, and if it goes down to like a tie where you're both down to your last stock or whatever, it goes to like a showdown stage where it's either like all in, like you're all invisible and you can just see your like silhouette in the rain, or you can just see your like shadow in like on the horizon with like a big like Kurosawa sun in the background. Like it's just so cool. It's one of the most stylish games around. And to be honest, I will say the Among Us character, it feels like they just kind of slapped that in there as like they got this huge game to be like in their game, but like the level they made for the Among Us stage is incredible. Like there's all these like little puzzles you can solve, and like even the Among Us character, like Mikey loved it. Like you have to like swipe your card on like the terminal on like these terminals and like plug in the code in time. Like it was really
that's
cool
sweet
how much
that they put the theme in from other games.
I was gonna say it was like unbelievable how much they got, because the Spelunky level is the same deal. Like it's like, and even on the Minute level, I don't know, they might have changed it now actually, but it used to be like there's like a little crab like wandering around on the level, and if you killed it, you actually got credit for like getting a kill if you killed that crab. So you get like one cheap freebie. It would never respawn, so it was just like one little freebie you could get, but. It's just so cool. Even one thing we noticed that I didn't know before, like if you go in water, which there's not much, but if you land in like a little puddle, then your gun doesn't work anymore. Like you can't shoot until you die after that. Like there's no way to get it back. Really, really cool. Like all the little touches in the game are just, it's so subtle, but like, I don't know. I have a feeling, I mean, people are going to always be playing Smash Brothers, but like I have a feeling this game's got some legs. I really think Samurai Gunn 2 is going to stick around and have a nice competitive scene. I really hope it does. But yeah, I hope when it comes to consoles, it blows up even bigger than it already kind of seems like. Like I was actually able to hop into some like just random matches online, which I hadn't been able to do before. So,
that's seems like encouraging. That's cool. Yeah,
it seems like things are getting smooth and polished up, and it's a fantastic game. And speaking of games that are smooth and polished up and fantastic, why don't we talk about a little Grapple Dog here, Randall? I know you and I've dug deep into Grapple Dog to the point where it's another game that I can add to my list of games that I've beaten this year.
Yeah, baby, you've been on a roll.
I've been going nuts lately.
Yes, you have. That's awesome.
it's been feeling awesome. And I didn't.
It's such a good zone.
It's so good. It's so good. And this is one of those games that, like, I am obviously, we're talking about how I'm kind of in that mindset of like wanting to plow through and beat some games right now. But this is one that really kind of sucked me in. I talked on a recent Save It for the Cast episode about Flynn, Son of Crimson, about how that game really kind of sucked me in and pulled me into the adventure. And this was like kind of the same thing. Like, it just like, it's just got that overworld map, and it's got the whole package. It's not
such a Kevin game. Let me just say that on the front. Say this is such a Kevin game. This is like, I was playing. I'm like, I told Tina, like, this game's made for Kevin. Like, every aspect of this is a Kevin game.
I was going to say, in what regards, or in any particular regards, or at least in any one specific regard, other than the fact that obviously, I love 2D platformers.
2D challenging platformer with like a lot of like twitch control and like momentum and like really bright, colorful graphics and like a pretty banging soundtrack too. Like, I just think
really
there's a lot of Kevin
soundtrack,
a lot of Kevin elements here.
Yeah, that soundtrack, I guess since you just mentioned it off the top, I wanted to mention how it's like, it's really got some like WarioWare vibes to the soundtrack. Like, there's all like the kind of like, there's like not vocals per se, but there's just like characters, not characters, like, but there's like vocals in the background, like, I want to get into it. And like, you just start the machine. Yeah. I love it. The whole stream I was doing when we were doing like a first look, Mork was hanging, there was a bunch of people hanging out. I just kept going, start the machine. And I couldn't stop like every single time, but it's so fun. And even like when you're in the second world, like the beach zone, there's also like the, get steady, man. Get ready, man. I don't know what they're saying, but that's what I'm picturing in my head. They're just
I was
like
kind of getting some like Genesis vibes from like the soundtrack too, though. Like, it definitely was giving me some of that like 90s Attitude Era Genesis game vibes, like Toe Jam and Earl, or like some of the more like feisty Sonic levels or something. Like, had a little bit of that.
Sega soundtracks have that like funk injected to them a little bit, and this definitely has that like funkiness. And you mentioned the difficulty off the top. I actually wasn't expecting this game to be so tough. I mean, I knew it was going to be a challenging, some precision platforming going on, but man, it gets really tough.
Yeah, like pretty quickly, I would say. Yeah, there's some challenge there pretty early on.
Yeah, I went through the first world with like a relative level of ease. I don't want to say ease, but got through it pretty decently without having to, without too many stumbles along the way. But yeah, by the time I got to the second world and then the third world, and I don't know how spoilery do we want to get here. I don't know how spoilery. It's not spoilery per se.
I'm not really worried about spoilers in a game like this, to be honest. But
yeah, and to me, it's like it's almost not a spoiler because it's such a cliche to like have like, oh, you beat the fourth world, you beat the last world, and then there's the Dr. Wily zone of like a whole extra world. But like, again, there was a whole extra world, but even when I saw it, like, oh, hey, if after World 1, I was like, and everything they show up front, I was like, man, if this game is just 4 of that and, ramping up difficulty, I was like, I'm all in. And then when I saw that there was a 5th zone, and then there's actually a kind of trials zone after that, which is like super challenge levels, which I think there's a few less of those. But yeah, I really like how like, if you're I don't know how to explain it, because like the levels are really open-ended when you're going through them the first time. We were talking about this in the Discord a little bit, Dylan in particular, Dylan Brown Games. Like, we were talking about how like the first time through the levels, you kind of feel like you want to explore. You're like, oh, I see some oranges, which are like the coins. Like, I better go over this way.
Yep.
Yeah. Or there's like 5 gems on every stage. And then on top of that, if you there's 250 oranges in each stage. And if you get up to 220, it's kind of like Rayman Legends style. Like, then you get like an extra gem. I think it's like at 100 and then 220 or something. Or maybe it's 150 or something. But so you don't have to get them all, which is nice. But you're like, oh, there's oranges over here. There must be a secret over here. And so I really like how it breaks up. Like, so for example, after you beat the first world, or maybe it's just after you beat a stage, it unlocks like a time trial version of the stage, which is the same stage, but it just straight up takes all the oranges out of the stage. Like, so you're really just, they don't distract you at all. Like, you really focus, and the levels feel completely different. Like, cause you're just totally focused on like, get from point A to point B. And I didn't do all of them in the first world, but I did a few of them. And I mean, at least compared to the Donkey Kong Country Returns games, like those games on the first level was like, I can't do this. I can't do this time trial. You have to be like barrel rolling at all times.
Perfect jumping.
Yeah, and you had to do like the Wiimote shaking on the original Donkey Kong Country Returns. It was like, there's no chance. Where like Grapple Dog, the first like 2 or 3 that I did, I was like, okay, I got it on my first try, but it was like relatively tight. And I know our buddy Morcalb was saying that they get pretty tight at the end, and he's like the speedrunner extraordinaire in our Discord. Oh, yeah. So if he was saying that things were getting tough, then they definitely are. But yeah, I don't know. It's got an interesting, like, probably one of my few gripes with the game is the way the running mechanic works. Like, I wouldn't even say it's a gripe because it needs, because like you basically we haven't even really talked about the mechanics. You basically just, it's called Grapple Dog. So obviously you're just a dog with a grappling hook, and you just like anything that's like blue in color, you can essentially latch onto, and you can essentially shoot your grappling hook either directly up or at a 45-degree angle to the left or the right. Or
typically
like
you're doing the 45-degree angle. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also kind of like auto targets if you're like sort of, pointing at a balloon. Like you can clearly see like an arrow or like a cursor that pops up. Yes. It's got a really nice like UI presentation.
Yes.
They do have some nice accessibility options as well, where there's like they have like, you can turn on infinite jumping and infinite health. So there's like a way to make the game easier, especially because some of the What I didn't expect was like there to be like these huge sections where you're like grappling from like, especially in the later stages, you're like grappling onto stuff that once you grapple onto it, you can swing like once or twice before it crumbles and falls. Ooh. And you're like, oh man. And like later in the game, there's bosses that you're like, it's a giant dragon, and you're like, you literally have to like grapple along the parts of it while it's flying through the air. And like, there's a few times where like the level design, there's like snakes maybe chasing you, and it's like, man, I have to be swinging back and forth, but there's like this heat-seeking enemy chasing me around. It's like, it almost like doesn't work in a way. Like it can be a little frustrating at times because like, man, I need to build up my speed.
Yeah, the game is like it's more like they gave priority to momentum over like precision when you're slower, I would say, which can be a little bit tough. If there's like a tight section with spikes or snakes or something else, you're probably going to get hit there. At least that's been my experience. Yeah. And I've got a lot of gaming under my belt, and this game came naturally to me, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, shit, so you get 5 hits per kind of like checkpoint area. But there's a lot of times where I was down to my last hit, and I'm like, okay, thank God, like the checkpoint's right here, because like I'm taking shots. Like,
yeah, they don't mess around. The enemies are all pretty tough. Yeah. But yeah, some of them are just more like kind of helper, like the crabs. They're not actually enemies. You just kind of ground pound and they flip upside down, and then they're like trampolines. So a lot of the environment you got to use to, the level design's kind of more like almost Yoshi's Island, or even like kind of Sonic style, like really open ended, a lot of exploring around. But then again, when you switch up the mindset, even just and say, hey, I'm playing time trial mode. Or even, to be honest, like when I'm just going back and playing the levels, like combing for the 1 or 2 gems I missed on the stage, like the purple gems, like when I'm going in with just that one goal in mind, I find that I'm having more fun on the levels as opposed to when I'm just trying to get everything on the first playthrough. So it's interesting in that way because, I am finding that I'm just having, and just you kind of know the lay of the land a little bit.
Yep.
I'm just finding that I'm having a little bit more fun in that regard. But I love the pixel art. I actually was reading a thread of the developer, Joseph. It's either Gibbon or Gribbon off the top of my head. I don't know. This is actually the first game published from Super Rare Originals. Are you familiar with Super Rare Games, Randall?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, another basically like limited run type of publisher.
That's what I thought.
A lot of like Switch games in particular, but I know they publish other stuff too. But now they're getting into publishing, original games as opposed to just reprinting things that had never, or printing like things that were only digital before. Now they're like, okay, we're in the business of helping produce these things.
Yeah, and their opening lineup is amazing. They started off with Grapple Dog, and then they have this other game, Gecko Gods, that looks really cool. It's like this 3D, like just platformer, puzzle, adventure, kind of looks like Rhyme or something like that.
Yeah.
But then they have this game called Lone Ruins, which is from the developer of Hell is Other Demons, which is an amazing game. And Lone Ruins, it was originally called Robes. There's a version of it. I don't know if it's still up there, actually, but they made like this random game that they were working on their itch.io page all of a sudden they're like, oh, Robes, by the way, is now Lone Ruins. I think that's the name. It's like a super generic name. So I was like, is that the right name? But there were 2 Post Void, which has been out for a while on PC, but it's going to be coming to consoles. It's like a first person shooter from the team that made Sea Salt, which I talked about that on the podcast. I'm a huge fan of that game. And I forget what the last one is, but they're just like coming out the gates hot with all these games that like I was already kind of anticipating. Like Grapple Dog's been on my radar for a while. But yeah, reading that
time.
thread, I kind of got sidetracked, but the developer said like during the course of Grapple Dog, they played like 70 different platformers and like had it all documented. Yeah, that was so cool. I was kind of surprised that they said that their biggest art inspiration was Yoshi's Island, because I kind of see it like with the bold outlines, but it's like it doesn't have, I don't know, it feels way more Sega to me, like you were saying.
Well, I see some like color scheme wise, it feels a little bit like Game Boy, like early Game Boy Advance-y to me to some degree.
Yeah.
Like a lot of yellow, a lot of like neon almost type of color scheme thing going on. And Yoshi's Island wise, I'd say like in a level design, you can certainly see there's those kind of little bit secret areas where you can tell like, oh, there's a little bit of like a indent to where you, maybe I can walk over there and I'm not seeing the full picture of like what's hidden behind. Oh, there's a gem. So there's some of that happening too, which I'm always a sucker for, even though it's a bit of a trope these days.
Yeah, but I will say in Grapple Dog, I think they did a really great job of like not necessarily telegraphing those secrets, but like enough to where you're not like, let me slide against every wall Mario style and see if there's an invisible one here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found it to be at times a tad frustrating because of there's no run button, so you have like a little momentum meter that builds up, almost like Mario 3 style, although that only builds up when you're holding down the run button.
Right.
But like sometimes like there's some really, even just like the simplest jumps in the game are pretty fucking tight if you aren't in that run mode or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there are a couple sections where it's like, man, it can be a little frustrating to like get your momentum in going. So like if you like in the way it's nowhere near to the level of how much I like get frustrated with how Sonic is like stop and go, but it does have a little bit of that feel of like where you have to like kind of, once you get your momentum kind of grinds to a halt, you're like, oh man, I gotta get moving again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, especially if you're trying to get all of the secrets, the momentum is absolutely key. That's how you're gonna get them. Yeah.
But it's a really awesome game, and the overworld's
really
amazing.
good.
Like the top down, like you sail around on like a pirate ship, and like every level has like its own like distinct little diorama that you sail around to. Like it's just so good.
It is. It's very good. And there's so much of it, and the levels are big, and like there's a ton of levels. It's like there's so much there.
Yeah, they're huge. Like the first level time trial, I think was like a minute and a half. So that's like when you're trying to blaze through the level as fast as you can, they have like the challenge time set at a minute and a half, which is it's pretty meaty.
Yeah.
But yeah, really fun game. It was honestly everything I hoped it would be and a little more. I know I mentioned a few frustrations, but yeah, that's any game. You're always going to have some nitpicks here and there. And I guess real quick before I literally toss the ball over to you, Randall, I did want to give a quick shout out to another grappling hook game that's in the works. I checked out a demo on a stream for this game called Rusted Moss, and it's from a developer, FaxDoc, and there's a few other people, and they actually were hanging out in the stream while I checked it out, which always has me super anxious and nervous whenever the developers are hanging out, but it's also super cool. But this game like takes the grappling hook mechanic and totally it does it in the complete opposite way that Grapple Dog does it, in the sense that it's like all momentum based, in the sense that like it's kind of like an elastic tether, if you will. So, and you can also tether to anything, including like enemies. So they'll be like, like the enemies in like a Metroid game. And this is like a Metroidvania platformer, like run and gun shooter kind of game.
Yeah.
Like a twin stick platformer shooter kind of controls. At least with a controller, you'd play like keyboard and mouse controls, I guess. Ideally, like right when I booted up the demo, actually, it's like, we recommend keyboard and mouse controls, and they were hanging out in the chat, like I said, the developers, and I was like, sorry guys, I'm playing with the gamepad. Hate to break it to you. And we actually ended up finding like a couple small little hiccup bugs in the demo, so they're like, oh sweet, glad we found those. So just with like some of the options that you can select, but yeah, it's just so cool. Like it took me a little bit to get the hang of it, and I still feel like the demo is like almost like a good hour long. Like it's a really good slice of like life of the game. But it's just got such pretty pixel art, which is no huge surprise from like anything I've checked out from FaxDoc before. Is just so it's just gorgeous, and like it's got a really great soundtrack. Just it's got a really, really cool setting, and it's actually got a pretty cool sense of humor too. I wasn't expecting it to have this kind of like little bit like I don't know how, like it's just got this like dismissive attitude in a way, like, or like the main characters are just kind of no biggie kind of thing, like in a way that it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just got a cool tone to the game that I didn't expect. I thought it was going to be this like really serious game.
Right.
Have you ever seen or played Knuckles Chaotix?
That's exactly where my head went.
Yes.
Thank you.
Like that little like,
I'm glad I'm not the only one bringing up weird ass games like that.
Well, what is it?
It was
I've heard of it.
32X game, and on the start screen, it's Chaotix featuring Knuckles the Echidna. Welcome to the next level in 32X world. But it's got like it's a really weird kind of like Metroidvania like Sonic game where you play as the Knuckles Chaotix, where it's Knuckles. Charmy Bee.
There's the alligator dude. I couldn't tell you the names, even though I own the game.
Jeez, I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, like more like side characters in the Sonic universe, but it's you play as with co-op. You have two people, and like you are tethered to each other. Kind of like you have rings that are kind of like bound, but like it's elastic, so you're not a set. It's more of like as you stretch like a Stretch Armstrong, like it snaps back, so you use that momentum to launch each other through like levels.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
It's really cool in the concept, but like the game itself is a nightmare.
It is
like this game here, like I was not able to execute any of these moves, but I saw them like tweeting little clips and stuff of the game, like because you can even use like the grappling hook to like you can basically like grapple onto the ground and then like back up, pull yourself backwards, and then let go, and then start like using that to like sprint faster and like clear like a super long jump. Like it's just so cool. And just a really, really, really cool game. I'm really excited to see more from this one. Really, I don't know, just wanted to mention it since it's another grappling hook game, and I feel like we just can't get enough of those. I'm always down for a grappling hook action. I was just playing some Webbed, that spider game, and that's one of the coolest grappling hooks I've ever come across in any game ever, period.
Nice.
So, but yeah, why don't I toss the pigskin over your way, Randall?
The pigskin ball is in my hands now.
Gross. I don't like this.
That is gross when you think about it. I never really like think about that when I say it.
Yeah, that's
not that I say it often,
but so I'm going to talk about Retro Bowl, which was initially apparently a mobile game. I didn't realize this before, but it was, and then just very recently, as the time of recording, got ported to Switch.
Nice.
So recently that the developer is still updating it, like, oh, there's no like stiff arm in that. I'm gonna like update it and make like running a little bit better. So he's still like working on it.
As in it wasn't in the original game, or it wasn't in
it's not
the
in the Switch
version.
That's
okay.
That's all I know. I haven't played it on mobile.
Okay.
But Retro Bowl is basically just like to set the stage. Think like Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl from the NES, but widescreen. But then streamlines where it's only offense. You don't play defense.
Ooh.
So during the defensive possessions for your team, there's just a text box saying like, you know, player was sacked, or like this player was too slow, first down, like, and then but it happens really fast.
Like
and
Oregon Trail style almost, where there's just like almost like a scroll of this is what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And just text boxes pop up, and either, you know, your defense stops them, or they get a touchdown and go for an extra point, or, you know, 2 points or whatever. And then you get the ball back. And besides the initial kickoff, you don't actually return the ball either. You get the ball on offense after kickoff, essentially.
Okay.
So like, that's like, it's streamlined where the majority of the time, all you're doing is playing offense with your squad. So,
do you have any agency on defense?
Yeah, or I was going to ask if like, do different teams have different like defense stats, or is it always just like
okay,
big time? So the reason this game sucked me in is going to be a huge shock to you guys, because you can manage your roster and go into kind of a general management mode where you can select the players' offense or defense. So you get 12 spots on your roster that you can choose from, but there's also a salary cap.
Oh my god!
To manage.
Yes, yes.
Oh my god! Is the presentation exactly the same too? So it's like Final Fantasy 1 like menus.
Yes.
Oh, that's
yes.
Oh yes.
Yes,
that's amazing.
100%. Yes, it just is. Besides being widescreen, it could easily be shown on an NES. Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
100%. Yes.
That rules.
So yes, you get 12 players on your roster, and you get to choose you get to build your roster essentially. So what they recommend when you start is you start with kind of a crap team that's just starting out, and your players aren't good, your coaches aren't good, they all have individual ratings, 1 to 5 stars. And they gain experience after each game, too. They also have their own morale percentage that goes from, 0 to 100. And that, based on that morale percentage, they're going to play better or worse. So you have 12 slots. You can choose quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, kicker, defensive lineman, linebacker, or defensive back. And you can have multiple of any of those positions. It wouldn't be recommended to have multiple quarterbacks or running backs necessarily because, in football, one of them can be on the field at a given time. But say like those defensive positions, you could have multiple. And then those players are kind of like key players that gain experience. If you don't have those positions, it kind of defaults to kind of a below average CPU player that doesn't gain experience, that just kind of fills in the needs for the, 12 players or whatever on each side of the field, essentially.
Okay.
But you have to manage your roster to stay under the cap. And as you re-sign these players, they get more expensive. So that kind of brings the salary cap into play.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And you can trade them for draft picks. There's a whole draft process, too.
Oh, my God.
You see why I got hooked by this.
Absolutely. Yes, this is a Randall game to a T, like in every aspect.
Yes.
And it's even like slicing up the action into like, like just breaking it up into play some offense. Now to let the I don't know. It just seems like it's pacing it out in a way that's like a little more bite-sized chunks.
Oh, and what's amazing is because they've streamlined the football, essentially, like you're just playing the fun bits, which I'm a sicko. I'll play defense and have fun. But for most people, they just want to play offense, right? That's the most fun part.
Well, especially if you're like maybe trying to play through a whole season in a game like that or something. Exactly. Multiple. You just kind of want to maybe have a little more agency, but not play every play in the game, maybe.
Yeah. But even how they've streamlined playing offense, if you touch the analog stick, that automatically starts the play, hikes the ball, and you're in a passing play just immediately, that quickly. just touch the analog stick, hike, players are running, and then you have to find them. But the way the cursor works to pass to a player is like think like an NES or SNES golf game, where you have like an arc on your ball to where you want to hit it, and you're aiming that on the fly, but you only have a few seconds before you get sacked, right? So you have to make pretty quick decisions on who might be getting open or not. And if there's a star above a player, like one of your wide receivers, that's actually one that's gaining experience, they'll have a star above his head, and you'll know, okay, that guy's probably going to have better stats than an average other player, and he's more likely to get open on a play. But if he doesn't, I better figure something else out. Or take the sack.
This seems so complicated.
It is, but you make that's also what's so addictive is you're making these snap decisions.
Yeah.
And plays don't take long at all. And then like once you have caught the ball, you can either juke with the B button or just like move and run. Like there aren't that many buttons to press necessarily.
Can you even do a run play, or is it all passing?
You can. No, you can do a run. Okay. So if you press the B button, then you snap and you hand off to your running back, and then you can run. Although he needs to tweak it a little bit because right now running is kind of difficult. And you can like upgrade your running back to have more strength so he can break tackles a little bit, but it's definitely easier to be successful throwing the ball, which I guess it's the case in most football games.
I was just going to say, and hey, if you're trying to emulate, or not emulate, but if you're trying to, have an homage to Tecmo Bowl and whatnot, I don't know about you, but I was definitely passing. It's just more fun.
Yeah, unless you had Barry Sanders or, one of those dudes.
Yeah, that's true. Walter Payton or whatever.
Walter Payton, yeah, any of those dudes.
I almost said Gary Payton. I'm just so used to the glove and all the basketball talk around here.
Baby.
But that actually sounds odd. I really like that passing mechanic. So it's not just like cycling through the receivers like it is in Tecmo Bowl.
That's what's awesome. That's what feels so good. It feels more like actual football or modern football where you have to like I'm not targeting a player when I'm passing the ball. I'm targeting to where the player is going to be.
Yeah, you got to lead the receiver.
Yes. And that feels so good.
Because you got to get into like a rhythm with that, and that's got to feel really nice. Yeah.
Yes. Like I have to figure out the gait of the player on that given play, how fast he's running, if he's going to outrun the defensive back, and then overthrow both of them in a place where that guy can catch it, but the defensive back isn't going to catch it for an interception.
And then once you throw the ball, once the ball is in the air, are you able to then switch to the receiver and have some control in that regard? Or you have to fucking nail that throw? Okay.
You switch to the receiver's control as soon as he catches the ball.
Okay.
If he doesn't catch the ball, it could be an interception or, incomplete pass and, start the next down.
And then I'm assuming it's all pretty quick and immediate, like right back to the, pick a play and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes, you're immediately, there for second down, third down, whatever else. So I think this is basically like an improved Tecmo Bowl formula, and I don't say that lightly because I love Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah, I've let you whoop my ass in that game a few times, like purely out of just knowing, like, okay, I know I don't have a chance, but Randall loves this game, and like I want to experience it like through the eyes of someone who loves it, because my cousin had, I don't remember if it was Tecmo Bowl or Super Tecmo Bowl, but same experience. Like he would just destroy me with every team. Didn't matter who, if I picked the best team and he was the worst, destroy me. Yep. So it's like I just never got, I never had fun playing those games as a kid, so I don't have the nostalgia for them. So I'm like, I need to experience it through. I need to experience it vicariously, I guess.
Yes, it is. I think it's worthwhile. I didn't even get into the coin mechanic. You get coins. You get more coins if your fans are happy. You get 3 coins versus 2. You can use those coins to update rehab facilities, training facilities, so your coaches and players get better faster. The stadium, so there's more fans. There's fan happiness percentages. You can boost your offensive, defense, and coordinators' morale and level them up too, and you have to sign them too with these coins. Like, there's so many systems happening here. You can upgrade your salary cap if you get to 100 coins, which is really hard to do. It takes multiple seasons. It's just really good.
I was just going to say that sounds so much better on Switch too than mobile, at least for the way that I play on mobile. But it just seems like having to jump through all those menus seems like it would be a lot easier with like buttons to press and whatnot to just shift through and select things and all that. And,
yes, I've been so addicted to it. It's so good.
That's awesome to hear. How much is it, by the way? Is it like a $5-10
I bought it for $3-ish, I want to say, and now it's like $5, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely might snag that. That sounds pretty fun, and I like
it's like awesome.
Whenever you talk about the NBA stuff, like there's part of my brain like that ticks some of the boxes in my brain where I'm like, okay, that does sound pretty fun, and I see what you're enjoying out of that, or what you're getting out of that, or at least why you get addicted to it.
Yeah.
But this sounds like a version of that I could maybe get into.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think so. It just like, I know it nails all my buttons. So, and I'd like to see you play it. And I know you understand like how football works, so that gives you obviously a leg up in controlling this and figuring out what to do. But it's so much fun. It's so addictive.
Yeah, I got to check that out for sure.
Oh, it's great.
But yeah, I know we mentioned off the top of the episode, or I mentioned that you stopped by the other day, John, to play some video games, in particular to play some Pokemon, the new Pokemon Legends Arceus. Is that how you say it? Arceus?
I've always said Arceus, but I have no idea. Because
a soft C makes more sense, I think, but it doesn't look like a Pokemon-y word to me. Like every time I write it down, I'm like, is that the right name? I don't know if that's right.
Diamond Pearl has some very out of left field names. Like all the legendaries are like Dialga and Palkia, which don't sound more like, they sound like Digimon, even though they don't have Mon.
They even kind of look a little more like Digimon, at least some of the legendary Pokemon that I'm picturing, at least in Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah.
But yeah, John came over kind of to talk me out of buying. Now, I wasn't like fully like ready to go buy this game, but I keep like seeing it, and in the Discord, Anju keeps popping in, and a few people keep saying, "Oh yeah, it's really fun. Oh, I like the new mechanics, and it's really pretty. It's got like the Breath of the Wild kind of atmosphere and whatnot." Although it's not, I don't want to say it just looks exactly like that or anything. It's got its own personality. But yeah, basically John was like, "Don't buy this game, Kevin. You're not going to like this game." And
you specifically are not going to. I personally love this game, but
exactly, it wasn't him trying to tell me that no one likes this game or should like this game. It was just him being like, "Yeah, this is not a Kevin game, if you will."
Specifically.
And for the most part, I agree. Although I will say, I'll let you take it away here, but I will say pretty much everything I saw, I was like, man, this looks cool. This looks fun. Like I liked what I was seeing, but I also was kind of like, I'm glad I'm not the one playing at the same time, or like having to do all this stuff.
Yeah. So I've played basically every Pokemon game that's mainline and spin-off, like with maybe a few exceptions. But I was looking back, and I first talked about Pokemon Sword and Shield on episode 32 back in 2019 when that was new.
Damn.
And that was the mainline game that they were really working on, that was incorporating these open world sections that they had never done before. And like I realized, like you started the podcast probably before Pokemon, or after Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu came out, because those were also games that I really enjoyed. But like were not necessarily thought of as like, oh, this is going to be like what the future of Pokemon games are going to be. Like Sword and Shield was kind of set up as like, this is our next mainline title. This is the direction we're moving in.
I feel like they weren't even marketing it as like the Let's Go games are just kind of like, this is a thing we're releasing this year because we need to release a Pokemon thing. But this is just a remake of the first games with, a bit of the Pokemon Go mechanic thrown in. And,
that's kind of how I felt.
But the real
too,
thing's coming later. Don't worry, guys. Like that's kind of the vibes I got.
And honestly,
I got the feels like a nostalgia and like a chill, more laid back Pokemon for younger kids, even maybe.
Yeah, and honestly, like it was really like enjoyable. I loved that game. Like I got Let's Go Eevee and like had a ton of fun. Like it was honestly one of the more enjoyable versions of Red and Blue, just because it's very difficult to go back after all the quality of life improvements in the series and play the original game. So
boot that up on a Game Boy, forget about it.
Yeah. But like, so Let's Go it's very much its own thing. It wasn't trying to do like, I don't know. It was redoing some mechanics, and adding some or redoing some old mechanics and adding some new ones. But overall, like it was a one-off. And I had really no expectations for Pokemon Legends Arceus, because Pokemon fans online are rabid and can never be pleased by anything. So I just would tune it out for however many years it was in development, or anytime there would be a new screenshot and someone would make a hour-long video complaining about trees or water. Like I basically did not follow this game at all during its development.
I think it's a better way to go.
And they kept relatively quiet on it for a Pokemon game. I feel like I feel like they announced it during that Nintendo Direct, and then I didn't really see much about it until gearing up for launch. I feel but I'm also not super plugged in.
I was like kind of expecting it to be, kind of a janky one-off like Coliseum, where it has, the Pokemon things that you enjoy, but it does have a bit of its like own just weirdness that's not quite there. And that's what I was expecting. And instead what I got was what I really hope the rest of the Pokemon series is from here on out. Like, I think I would much rather this be the template for all future Pokemon games.
There you go.
Honestly, like the way that like the progression from XY, which I felt was a really solid title, to Sun and Moon, which was doing a lot of like different, like packaging the same type of game, but like in a different way. And then I felt like that the innovations that they did to Sword and Shield, like didn't add anything and were kind of a step back for the series, even though it was still like the core gameplay that I love. Like I still had a ton of fun playing it, but I just was like, yeah, I don't like the stuff that you discarded from Sun and Moon that you added in for Sword and Shield. And
I feel like they were still getting by on like, it's a mainline Pokemon game in HD on the Switch, the thing you're excited about.
Totally. It felt that way.
And it added a lot of fun stuff to it. Like I did like the stuff that it added, but it didn't, I don't know, like I think X and Y was the last time that like I really enjoyed a mainline Pokemon game. Like Sun and Moon was fun and Sword and Shield was fun, but like honestly I don't really have memories of those games like I do for the rest of the series. So
not
like
a good sign.
Yeah. I went into Legends Arceus kind of like thinking this was going to be, I don't know, just again like a one-off, where I was like, let's see what this is like. This seems fun. And then there was so much of like Pokemon Let's Go's DNA into it that like I was like, oh yeah, no, this feels familiar to me. And then like it took the Sword and Shield like overworld areas and implemented like the Let's Go mechanics, and then like also did like the Sword and Shield like they've actually changed a ton of just how like battle mechanics work in the game. Like status effects are like very different now. They're all kind of the same except I mean they're just like there's basically everything is poison now. So like frozen is frostbite, whatchamacallit, burn is also is the same effects, poison is the same effects, but then like sleep is like paralysis now. It's like they're basically the same thing. Like it just says that you got drowsy instead of like you fell asleep, so you can still occasionally act, but like other times you just So like stuff that's basically remained unchanged since Red and Blue, like they're mixing around with it, and then they have the strong style and agile style moves which use more PP but change how speed works. Speed is a completely different mechanic. Like you can now
really liked that.
Like you can now if your Pokemon has a high enough speed, they can take 2 turns in a row.
Ooh, like that's a difference maker.
And the way they have like the turn meter like up in the top right, where it's like I mean a bunch of games do it, but it's like just showing you the turn order, and it just rapidly,
which has never happened in a Pokemon game, because it's always just like whoever's the highest speed moves first in this like single round. Like it was always just a threshold.
And the way it would switch on the fly based on like when you would like swap to like, oh, I might do this more powerful move, but that slows me down. I can't remember was it just a different move or something, but changed. Oh, now I get to do 2 attacks in a row because that attack's like a quick attack or something.
Yeah, an agile attack
just really
will
cool.
decrease the amount of time between, but it'll reduce the power of the move, whereas a strong will increase the time between moves, but it will also be more powerful.
But it just adds like that little bit of extra layer of strategy of like, oh, let me get that. I can like take him out in one
extra
hit. Quick shot. Yeah, exactly. Like what you don't get in the other Pokemon, in any Pokemon game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk of like the open worldiness of this particular game. Can you expound on what that means? And is it Breath of the Wild in some degree?
So there are the other thing that is difficult about Pokemon Legends Arceus is the fact that like I feel like the space to like legitimate criticism of this game I feel is very difficult to like levy because of how insane some people have been about like the like amount of criticism it's gotten. And but maybe that's not been the case like post release. I actually haven't really been following to see like if this is a well-received game or if it's just like my like group of friends. But like each area is its own open world arena, and they're big. They're very big open world arenas, but like in order to move from one to the other, you have to go back to the first village. You cannot just move from one to the other. You can't leave until you've talked to the professor. Like there are very specific like little dumb nits where I'm like,
so like zones, like a Monster Hunter zone type of thing going on.
Oh yeah, that does sound kind of Monster Hunter-esque,
but like it's still like it's not even that big of a like you don't need to like prep as much as you do in like Monster Hunter where you're doing one specific hunt, so it just becomes kind of a hassle. Where it's like, oh, you have new Pokemon to report, why don't you go back to talk to the professor before you leave? And I'm like, just do this automatically. Like if I'm leaving this area, just say yes, like, check everything.
Don't I have cell service? Can I talk to the professor over a connection here?
Exactly.
But I think what I don't know if this is maybe some of the stuff you're getting at too, John, but like I know when you were over and you were playing and we were like we mentioned at one point there was like some, I don't know what the Pokemon are called, but there was like kind of like a pterodactyl looking Pokemon that was like flapping its wings flying in the background. It's like a big giant bird or whatever.
It was
but it's like it was like 2 frames of animation. Like it was like really
you could
shitty.
see. Yeah, it was up. Upwing, middle wing, downwing, and that was.
I don't even know if it had middle. It might have just been up and down. Like it was just like a flip book, you know.
And like I walked like a step forward, and then it suddenly gained 10 frames of animation. Like
yeah, but it's like that's just stuff that's like to me it's almost just funny. To me, it was just like, oh, there's a funny thing that is funny to look at while I play this game, and then like. You know, whatever, who cares? Like tons of games do that. Like it's definitely not anything that's worth like griping about. And then it feels like when a new Pokemon game comes out, or really any kind of huge franchise, like all the fans are just like jumping down its throat, and it's like, dude, if you're
Game Freak is lazy.
Yeah, complain about the game. Don't complain about I don't know.
No, but there's a thing that I haven't talked about is the fact that like the transition from open world to battle is seamless, and it is so immediate, and like that as soon as the battle ends, you're right back to where you are. The camera just like rotates. You're basically in full control of the camera during battles as well, and you can run around a little bit. So like there really is kind of this separation between you, the trainer, and the Pokemon that you have with you.
That's cool.
That way, like, really never comes in. Like, there's a great moment where my starter Pokemon uses a move that like it isn't an area of effect. It's not like it's still the same like way that you would a move would hit a Pokemon, but like that does the animation has like a little like flame that like circles around him. Then every time if I'm too close to it, my character will fall over because it's too close to the move. It doesn't do any damage, but it's just this cool, nice little thing that was like, oh yeah, these Pokemon are like in this world with me, or I'm in the world with them rather.
Yeah.
And even in the battle sequences, like it almost kind of like opens up like an arena like Okami or like Ni no Kuni kind of when you're in like a battle. It's like, oh, you're in like this little area, but like even just like you were doing, John, like it's cool to like just run around the area and like get a cool angle of the action, like almost like you're in control of like a free camera in a way. If it's not like a particularly pressing battle. Although like that one like boss battle you did was crazy, like definitely not like anything in any other Pokemon game I've seen. You know, it almost had like some like near automata vibes. Like you're like dodging like these like bullet hell per Voltorb things. Like it was really cool. Like way more actiony.
And that's way more like the Pokemon or new Pokemon Snap. Like that also is kind of those because it is a Randall. It is a you are the trainer. You're not really throwing you're not battling with Pokemon, but you are throwing medicinal balms at these Pokemon that are in frenzied mode, and you're
basically sprinkling them with holy water.
But like you as a character in the fiction, like if you get hit by Pokemon attacks like basically 3 times, like you black out and like you just lose, which is part of the game. But
sure,
it does make it kind of irritating in boss battles when it, like the Voltorb one, like there was just like electrical attacks that were homing me
everywhere
and like the entire time. Like they wouldn't dissipate. They would home until they hit me. So I just had to
bullet hell for sure then.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I just had to keep dodging until like I could throw one balm and then just keep dodging, and it took so long. Oh god.
After you balm that dude, can you catch him at least?
No, but you battle him, and that makes him more susceptible to bombs. So it's they're fun. Up until that one, I think I was having like legitimate fun throughout all of them. That was the first one that was difficult.
And that was later in the game, right?
Fair. That was like the second to last area.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying like, "Oh, this is close to the end of the game" or something. I was like, "Oh, dang, really nice."
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had played that much, but I thought that was just a cool, like, again, especially being like kind of unplugged from the Pokemon scene, you know, other than just kind of being generally aware. It's like, oh man, this is like something totally fresh. Not to mention that like it's set in like the feudal Japan-ish times. Nice. I don't know if it's obviously not in Japan, but like. I don't know, like like Voltorb region. Or whatever is like made out of wood, or like instead of like I don't know, just like
a wooden Voltorb is one of the best things because it's carved. It's beautiful.
And the Pokedex is like an actual like kind of like almost notebook. like a scrapbook kind of. It feels like a really hefty like I don't know, like the exact
even
opposite
the way they
of like
change like the Pokedex. Like you have these little like it doesn't give you an entry when you catch them. You have to like do these little like 10 points of research on them. So like if you catch one that might be boosted and you get like 2 research points for each one you catch, or like if you see it use this move, so you don't even, if you can only manage to catch one, you can use it in battle a lot and that'll fill out its Pokedex. Or like there's always these, or if you don't want to ever use it, you can just catch a bunch and then release them all. Like, so there's so many different ways to just fill out your Pokedex, and it's
cool.
This is such a good game.
Yeah.
Like in the sections that look kind of Breath of the Wildy, like the open world kind of where you're just like roaming around and there's like Pokemon just roaming around in the grasslands and whatever. Like it just looked cool where you're just like aiming, kind of like almost like Randall was talking about, like leading the receivers in Retro Bowl. You're like running around with Pokeballs and like, but it's cool. Like instead of like in the game, like you're in a battle with a Pokemon or whatever, and it's just, you're like at a single turn-based screen and you watch the Pokemon like jiggle left and right, and or the Pokeball or whatever. Like this, you throw one, you hit it, and you can just run and start moving on to the next one, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I caught that Pokemon, or oh shit, you hear the little sound effect. Oh man, I didn't catch that one. Let me go back and get that sucker.
Yeah,
like I don't know, it's just so cool. Like
that's cool.
It really did feel the most lively Pokemon game, if that makes sense. Like the world really did feel alive, and that's always what
even
I've
if it is like
from the Pokemon
emptier.
games. Yeah,
that's always been the dream of Pokemon games, I feel like.
Right.
You know?
That was certainly the dream of like Coliseum and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, like go on like a Pokemon adventure.
Yeah.
This kind of seems like they sort of figured it out. So it sounds like, especially if you're a fan of Pokemon already. But it's now that we're talking about it again, I'm back on the other side of the coin, John. I'm like, should I get this game or
stop it?
I need to. John literally lives across the street from me, so I need to just borrow it.
Yeah,
is what needs to happen here.
Yeah, borrow it for a weekend and then get so mad because I didn't show you any of the parts where you're talking to NPCs.
You didn't show me. You didn't show me the 3-hour tutorial.
Yeah, no.
But no, yeah. There's like some weird stuff too, like the professor, like that weird like hat that they wear is just so bizarre. Like this weird like winter beanie.
Some choices were made in this game.
Yeah. Where it's just like, they're like, nope, this is what this character looks like. Oh, it doesn't really fit in the world too bad.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty funny, but it's cool. It's a really cool game from what I saw. Like I'm really glad I got to experience it through that. And for what it's worth, we actually did a stream of it when John came over. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I'll try to put, the audio's not the best. I didn't have the mic set up in the best spot, but you can still hear it and everything. If you want to see a little bit of it in action, I'll put a link of it in the episode description here.
Nice.
But I don't know, any more Pokemon thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up for the evening?
Nope.
Nice. Well, on that note, I guess we can wrap it up and wrap up the video games talk. And as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. We're pretty much everywhere. I know I'm going to stop saying at the end of the episodes that we're not streaming much anymore, because I've been doing that like almost every day.
I feel like you've now moved on to saying I'm not going to say that we're not. So now we've gotten into this full meta.
Now it needs to be addressed.
Just don't address it. Don't bring it up. Don't
let it be.
Keep
my mouth shut. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything.
That's exactly right.
But yeah, we're on the internet. We're everywhere. So yeah. Until next week, we will catch you then.
Keep it.
Bye-bye.
Keep it.
I'm totally down to keep that if you guys are.
Yes.
Yep.
Slop fest. We can make it work.
Oh my god.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.